Hello everyone. Today we are going to continue the chapter packing, which I started in my previous lecture, previous class. And in the previous class, we read that the narrator Jerome, his friends Harris and George, they decided to go on a journey. And for that journey, they had to do the packing. The most important work that needs to be done before we go on a journey. Our narrator Jerome said that he prided on his packing skill and he felt that he was the best packer in the world. He told his friends that they should let him do the packing. His friends, they readily agreed and they relaxed themselves on the sofa and easy chair. But his intention, his plan was something else. Jerome wanted to boss the job. That means he wanted that his friends George and Harry should do the packing under his supervision. He should supervise the job, that means the work of packing. He should instruct them that how they should do the packing. What things should be put at the bottom and what should be put at the top. But they misunderstood his words. The narrator did not say, he also says that he does not like any person sitting idly, relaxing himself on the sofa and watching him when he is doing something. Then he also says that there are many other things which he prides himself. He himself does not know that how he is so much adept in other things, including packing. So now let's start the chapter, paragraph 5. And when he had packed the bag at last, Harris reminded him that he had forgotten to pack the boots. And George laughed. That means the narrator says that Harris had done it intentionally. He wanted to make fun of his packing skill. He should have told him earlier when he had not strapped the bag that the boots were not packed. But he reminded him, told him when the boot was packed. I opened the bag and packed the boots in. And then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. So he had to open the bag, put the boots in, and as he was going to close the bag, a horrible idea occurred to him. What was the idea? Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. So he at once was reminded whether he had packed his toothbrush or not. So he says that whenever he would go on a journey and whenever he would do the packing, after the packing, he would be doubtful whether he had packed his toothbrush or not. So again he would have to unpack everything and then at last he would find his toothbrush in the bag. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life misery. That means haunts me. That means repeatedly giving trouble. Whenever he would be on a journey, whenever he would be doing the packing, he would always face problems regarding his toothbrush. He would have packed the toothbrush, but when he would do the packing, the idea he would be haunted. He would be doubtful whether he had packed the toothbrush or not. Then again he would go for unpacking everything. He would search for his toothbrush. I dreamed that I haven't packed it. So sometimes when he would have packed the bag, at night he would dream that he had forgotten to pack the bag. At the same time he would get up at night and wake up in cold perspiration, pasina. When he would remember that he had forgotten to pack the toothbrush, he would start sweating. He would get up in the night itself and get out of bed and hunt for it. That means he would open the bag and go looking for or searching for the toothbrush, whether it was packed or not. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it. So when he would remember that whether he had packed the toothbrush or not, he would get up early in the morning, so about 3 a.m. to 2 a.m., and he would pack the brush. But again, early in the morning at 5, he needs to go for brushing. Then again, he would have to take the brush and go for brushing his teeth. I pack it before I have used it and then have to unpack again to get it. Again, he would have to unpack everything to get the toothbrush to go for his brushing, to brush his teeth. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag. And then I repack and forget it. Then again, he would, after brushing, he would pack it, but again he would forget whether he had packed the toothbrush or not, and have to rush upstairs for it at last moment and carry it to the railway station, wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So sometimes after brushing, he would forget to pack it. When he would come downstairs to board the taxi, he would be reminded that he had forgotten to pack his toothbrush. He would again run upstairs, unlock the door, get the toothbrush, wrap it in a handkerchief, and put it in his pocket and rush to the railway station. Of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now. And of course, I could not find it. So now he was reminded that, or he was struck with the horrible idea whether he had packed his toothbrush. Now he has to unpack everything. He had to go searching, looking for the toothbrush. I could not find it. He unpacked everything. But the toothbrush was untraced, not found. I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the sense that they must have been before the world was created. And when chairs regined, of course, I found George and Harry's 18 times, however, but I couldn't find my own. So the things which were packed in a very orderly manner, he had to unpack everything, go looking for his toothbrush, and everything was in a mess. Everything was again lying on the floor everywhere. That means in a totally mess. When the world was formed, nothing was planned. Nothing was in a systematic manner. So same case, when the things once they were arranged in a very proper way and now they were taken out, they were spread everywhere in the room. And when he kept on looking for his toothbrush, he didn't find his, but he found George and Harry's toothbrush many times. But he couldn't find his own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. So he started packing everything one by one. Then suppose he took his shirt, he held everything up and tried to see whether that particular, his toothbrush was whether in that particular cloth or not. And held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked one. And at last, when he took the boots and when he held it upside down, the toothbrush fell down. That means it was kept in the toothbrush. And again he had to pack everything. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. So when he had finished, for the first time, it was Harris who reminded him that the boots were not packed. Now when the second time he had packed, George asked him if he had put the soap in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. So Jerome, our narrator, said that I didn't care a hang whether. That means he wasn't concerned, he didn't bother now whether the soap was packed or not. And if I slammed the bag, too and strapped it. Again he slammed the bag and he strapped it. He locked it. and found that I had packed my tobacco pouch in it and had to reopen it. Then he remembered that he had packed his tobacco pouch in the bag. Again, he had to open it to get it out. I got shut up finally at 10:05. So finally at 10:05 he was able to pack everything. And then there remained the hampers to do. That means the hamper, the basket in which the food items and other things were to be packed. Harris said that he should be waiting to start in less than 12 hours' time and thought that he and George had better to do the rest. So George and Harris, they had seen that, or they had seen the skill, the packing skill of the narrator, that first he forgot to pack the boot, then his toothbrush, then the soap, and then his tobacco. So they knew his packing skill. So they proposed that they would pack the hampers themselves. And I agreed and sat down and they had a go. So he also agreed to let them do the packing, to let them do the hampers to be packed. He also relaxed himself. And now he was going to watch how they were going to start the packing, what type of mess they were going to create. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. So they began packing in a very light manner. And they intended, they wanted, they wished to show the narrator the packing skill, how things need to be packed. I made no comment, I only waited. And the narrator says that he didn't make any comment when they started the packing. He just waited. He knew that they were going to create a mess. So he just waited for the right time. I only waited. When George is hanged, Harris will be the worst packer in the world. So the narrator said that when George is hanged, that means George and Harris were doing the packing. When George is taken away, Harris, without George's help, was the worst packer. That means he would not be able to pack even a single thing on his own. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pipes and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc. So the narrator knew that, Jerome knew that it was going to be a very exciting scene because plates, cups, kettles, bottles, jars, etc. were going to be packed. So he was waiting eagerly that they should start packing so that he could see their talent, their skill related to packing. That it did. So it did. That means the exciting thing, the moment for which the narrator was waiting, it happened. It started as he had expected. They started with breaking the cup. So when they started packing, first, before they could pack anything, they broke a cup. That means the beginning of packing. That was the first thing they did. So the first thing before they could pack anything, they broke a cup. They did that just to show you that they could do and to get you interested. So the narrator says that he knew that the other things were going to be very much interesting. As they would proceed, go on with their packing, it was going to be interesting. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of a tomato and squashed it. And they had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. So what did Harris do? Harris first put the tomatoes at the bottom, which are very delicate. Soft thing, delicate thing need to be packed on the top. But he put the tomatoes and then he put the strawberry jam on the tomato. And one of the tomato was squashed with the weight of the jam. And now they had to take the help of a teaspoon to take out the squashed tomato. And then it was George's turn. Now it was George's turn to do the packing, to show his skill. And he trod on the butter. Trod, to step. He stepped on the butter with his slippers in his foot. I didn't say anything, but the narrator this time also didn't say anything. First they started the packing with breaking a cup, squashed the tomato, and now George had stepped on the butter. But the narrator was feeling very interesting. He was enjoying the scene, but he did not make any comment. He just watched them. It, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. He moved closer towards them and started watching their activities. And this irritated George and Harris. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. He did not make any comment, but coming close and watching their activities irritated George and Harris. I felt that he felt that they both were irritated. It made them nervous and excited. It made them nervous. That means they also knew that they had started the packing with damaging things, and when the narrator came closer and started watching their activity intently, with just interest, they became nervous. And they stepped on the things and put things behind them, and then couldn't find them when they wanted them. So they started stepping on the things, destroying them, damaging them. Sometimes they put the things on their back, and when they wanted it to pack, they could not find it because they had put it at their back. And they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on top and smashed the pies. They put the pies at the bottom and put heavy things over it. The pies were also smashed. They upset salt over everything. And as for the butter, I never saw two men do more with 1 or 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. So they also spread salt everywhere. The narrator says that the two men, George and Harris, the way they treated the butter or the thing they did with the butter, he had never seen any person doing or messing with butter the way they did. George and Harris did. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. So when at first George had stepped on the butter, somehow he managed to get it out of his slipper. Then he tried to put it in a kettle. Kettle means वो केतली जो चाय वाली होती है ना, उसका जो मुंह ऐसे होता है. So they tried to put it in the kettle through that long mouth of the kettle, but the butter wouldn't go, and some part of the butter which went in could not come out. They did scrape it out at last. Somehow they managed to scrape it and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it. So George took out the butter and he put the butter on the chair, and Harris sat on it and stuck to him, and they went looking for it all over the room. So Harris sat on the chair on which the butter was kept. It got stuck at his back, and when they needed the butter, they kept looking throughout the room, but the butter was not found because it had stuck at Harris' back. I will take my oath I put it down on that chair, said George, staring at the empty seat. And when the butter was not found, he took oath, उसने कसम खाया, that he himself had put the butter on the chair. But it disappeared. Where did it go? He could not understand. I saw you do it myself not a minute ago, said Harris. And Harris also consented that he had seen George putting the butter on the chair. But both of them were shocked where the butter had gone, where it had disappeared. Then they started round the room again looking for it. And they met again in the center and stared at one another. So they kept on looking throughout the room, going round and round, but they couldn't find it. Most tracked extraordinary thing I ever heard of, said George. And George said that it was the most extraordinary thing that he had ever heard of. That means he had kept the butter on the butter was kept on the chair, and it had disappeared. So it was a very extraordinary thing that he had heard of. So mysterious. Harris called it mysterious because it had disappeared. Then George got round at back of Harris and saw it. And when George went towards Harris' back, he could see that the butter was stuck at his back. Why, there it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly. That means expressing anger. He says that George said that he had seen the butter. They have been looking for it for a long time, and it had been to a particular place. And then Harris turned. Where? He asked George where he had seen it, where he had found the butter. Where? Cried Harris, spinning around. Stand still, can't you? Roared George, flying after him. And then he asked Harris not to move. He should stand still, and took out the butter from his bag. And they got it off and packed it in the teapot. And then it was taken and was packed in the teapot. Montmorency. Montmorency was in at all. Of course, Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. Montmorency was their dog. It was a very mischievous dog. And his main in life was that he should create such activities that people should shout at him, curse him, usko gali de, start throwing things at him. If he can swim in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted, and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head. So he would go everywhere where he is not particularly wanted, and he would start disturbing, he would start creating a mess. And then people would get irritated with his activities, and they would start throwing things at him, cursing him, blaming him. And he feels his day has not been wasted. So if he is cursed, if people start throwing things at him, Montmorency prided on his skill, on making people angry, making people curse him, creating disturbance in their works. And he would feel that his day was not wasted. Instead, he used to pride over himself, over his skill of disturbing and making people to curse him, to get somebody to stumble over him. Stumble, ladkhadana. He would make people stumble over him by coming in front of them, and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object. So he wanted to be cursed by the people. They wanted that people should throw something at him, and he would feel that his day is not wasted, that the aim of that day has been achieved. When he has succeeded in accomplishing his conceit becomes quite unbearable. Conceit, pride. He prided. It became unbearable. That particular day has not been wasted. He has been successful in his mission. He came and sat on things just when they were wanted to be packed. So when George and Harris were doing the packing, Montmorency came and he sat on the things that needed to be packed. And he labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hands for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. So he would go and sit on the things. And when George and Harris wanted to pack it, when they would put his hand for the thing, it was Montmorency's cold nose that touched their hand. He put his leg into the jam. He put his leg into the jam and spoiled it. And he worried the teaspoon. That means he scattered the teaspoons everywhere on the floor. And he pretended that the lemons were rats and got into the hamper and killed three of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan. So they were lemons, and he pretended that the lemons were rats. The lemons were rats, and he started chasing them, rolling throughout the room, and he killed three of them. That means he he damaged three lemons before Harris could hit him with the frying pan. So he managed to escape from the room. Harris and I encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. Harris said that I encouraged him. Harris blamed the narrator, Jerome, that it was his intention, or he had intentionally guided Montmorency to disturb them in the packing. But the narrator says that he didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. A dog like Montmorency doesn't need that type of encouragement. It is his ambition to disturb people, to be cursed by the people. And unless and until he succeeds in his missions every day, he feels that his day has been wasted. It is natural, that is, it is hereditary, it is natural talent of Montmorency, original sin that is born in him that makes him do things like that. That is inbuilt quality which Montmorency has. The quality in Montmorency was since his birth. The packing was done at 12:50. So at last the packing was completed. It was 12:50 a.m. and Harris sat on the big hamper and said he hoped nothing would be found broken. So after finishing the packing at 12:50, Harris sat on the hamper and he hoped that nothing should have been damaged or broken that was packed in the hamper. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken, and George said that he wasn't concerned, he wasn't bothered. If anything was broken, toot gaya. Now he was not going to unpack and go and see whether anything was broken or not. Which reflection seems to comfort him. He also said he was ready for bed. So he said that he wasn't concerned, bothered if anything was broken or not, which reflection seemed to come, and he was comfort. Now he didn't want to utilize his mind in thinking that whether if anything was damaged or broken or not. And now he said that he was ready to go for bed. It was already 12:50. We were all ready for bed. So narrator says that everybody was ready to go to bed. Everybody was feeling sleepy. Harris was to sleep with us that night, and we went upstairs. So that day Harris was to sleep with them. So they all three of them went upstairs to go to bed. We tossed for beds and Harry had to sleep with me. So they had tossed with whom Harris was going to sleep. And in the toss, Harris was going to sleep with our narrator. Do you prefer the inside or outside, Jerome? So Harris asked him, or narrator, whether he preferred inside or outside the bed. I think inside means toward the wall. I said I generally prefer to sleep inside the bed. Our narrator said that he preferred to sleep inside, that means towards the wall. He preferred to sit inside the bed. I said I generally prefer to sleep inside the bed. George said, what time shall I wake you fellows? And George, before going to sleep, he asked the narrator and Harris that at what time in the morning he should wake them. What time shall I wake you fellows? Harris said 7, I said no, 6. So Harris said that he should wake them up at 7 and narrator said that no, it should be 6 in the morning. Because I wanted to write some letters, and narrator said that he should wake him up at 6 because he had to write some important letters in the morning. Harris and I had a bit of row over it. That means a quarrel, a hard discussion, a conflict, that whether they should be, whether Harry should wake them, George should wake them up at 7 or at 6. So they had a little bit quarrel over it. But at last, split of difference. That means at last they compromised. That and 6:30, we wake us at 6:30. George said. So Harris wanted at 7, and narrator wanted to wake up at 6. So they fall into a suggestion, and both of them agreed to reduce half an hour. That means the actual time, the fixed time that George was going to wake them up was at 6:30. So both of them told George that he should wake them up at 6:30 a.m. Wake us at 6:30, George, we said. George made no answer. So they had a quarrel, hard discussion over getting up early in the morning. But when they reached the final decision at 6:30, and when they told George, there was no reply from George. Because we found on going over that he had been asleep for some time. They found that George was already sleeping because he was tired due to the packing work. So we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning, and went to bed ourselves. So they saw that George was already asleep. So they both went into the bathroom. They took out the bathtub and placed beside the bed. In such a position, when early in the morning, when George would get up, he would step in the bath and stumble and fell down. Okay, the chapter is complete. Okay, thank you.